What's going on, everybody? I feel like recently, not even recently, I feel like for the last few years, one of the things that's been happening is we're getting too enthralled with eye candy cards. We're getting too caught up in the hype of competing with and seeing what some of these people are posting, and we think that our collection is inferior. I'm sorry, but I don't know about you all, but I am certainly not rich. I am certainly not going to be featured on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. That is not going to happen for this guy. And, you know, I posted some videos over the last couple of weeks on cards from August that closed in August that were eBay finalized sales that look specifically at affordable cards. I looked at cards from the 1950s for under $50. I did a whole video on it. I listed 50 cards from the 50s of Hall of Famers under $50. And then I did the same thing for the 60s, only it was under $30. I found 50 deals that I thought were great deals from the 1960s for under 30 bucks. And most of them were graded slabbed cards. So then I did the same thing for the 70s. And I posted that video just a few days ago. And it's interesting because those videos haven't gotten a ton of views, which is okay, but it's surprising to me. See, the root of collecting, the heart of the hobby, is not the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 card. That is not what applies to most of us. Most of us are digging through value boxes. Most of us are people that just want to collect a few of our favorite players from our favorite team. We don't have insane amounts of money. So why do we get so caught up in these insane cards? We look at guys that are doing breaks and they're pulling like $50,000, $100,000, $20,000 cards. I mean, that's insane. That is not realistic. I watch a lot of YouTube channels, and the channels that I like the most are the down-to-earth people. See, I could heavily produce my channel, my content. I could have things doing crazy stuff on the screen and crazy music playing and crazy graphics happening. But to me, as soon as I start doing that, I've lost touch. There's a disconnect between me and everyone. See, I'm just a teacher. I just have a regular old income. And I just love cards. I love collecting cards. I love the history of the cards. I love the history of the games and the players. And I love the connections that I make with other people. I love going to card shows because I'm connecting with other dealers and other collectors. And I'm looking at so many different cards. I don't want to lose touch with what it's like to be a regular collector. Because guess what? That's what I am. I'm a regular old collector. So I don't want to lose touch of that. I saw a video over the weekend, and it was on Jeff Wilson's show. And it wasn't his sports card investor show. It was his Jeff Wilson show. I guess he has multiple channels. Anyway, it came across my feed, and he was interviewing the owner of Burbank Sports Cards. And I thought that the owner of Burbank Sports Cards absolutely nailed it when he talked about what the actual core, what the core and the root of the hobby is. Because what it's not watching Jeff Wilson buy a $20,000 Desmond Ritter card.
20 was where I wanted to be on it. 23 is good. 23? Okay. Awesome, guys. All right, there we go.
What a deal.
What a deal. It's a big deal, man.
Desmond Ritter, True Gem Plus. is going to a great home.
It's not watching the guys on Backyard Breaks buying or opening some, you know, box of Flawless and pulling an $80,000 card. That is not sustainable. Check out what the owner of Burbank Sports Cards had to say in this interview about what is sustainable and what is the core of the hobby for the regular collector, the people like you and the people like me. Check it out.
Cards do I have to sell till I eventually make back that same $300? And that $1,000 card took up that much space in my store. All these dollar bins are going to take up that much space. Why is that? Should they be thinking that way?
No,
or are you saying that's flawed thinking?
Completely wrong. Completely wrong. You need to grow your community. Look at it from, go around the counter and look at it from the consumer's point of view. And you're walking around $1,000 boxes, $500 boxes, $1,000 slabs. You know, you're looking at back room, all they're doing is breaking. You walk in as a family, is that attractive? It's not attractive to me, not at all. First impression is, I can't afford this hobby. Now we're getting rid of another generation. We've done so much to grow this, but if we forget that it's a damn hobby, we're in trouble. And you better have price points. I preach it every day. Value, price points, Easter eggs. People want to put their hands on the cards, Jeff. It's a misnomer that everything is about grading. It's a misnomer that everything is about social media. It's a misnomer because those are the people screaming the loudest.
Right.
And I think it's wrong. And my job is to represent the hobby in the best possible light. And I think I've done it here. I think I've done it through my online business. And I certainly know I've done it through my card shop.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that we keep leveling up. And that's because we don't forget that it's a damn hobby.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So wasn't that like perfectly stated? Isn't that exactly how most of us feel about the hobby? It's not about these flippers. It's not about these glitzy, glamorous cards. I mean, again, I watch a lot of YouTube stuff on cards and check out so Roth Cards. Roth Cards is a big channel for modern collectors. And he was doing a deal with Jeff Wilson at the Burbank show, the same show where the interview took place. And check out what he had to say when he talks about how long he keeps cards. This blew my mind, but it's what I've been saying. Check this out.
Do you have a maximum amount of time that you like to hold on to a card for?
72 hours. I like to have that.
Quick.
I like to keep it moving.
You just like to turn the cash.
I like to turn the cash. But I mean, ideally a week or two. I mean, some of these cards I've had these like 2 weeks. I just got this one yesterday.
But the strategy, I assume, is turn it, try to get a bit of profit off of it, but you don't want to hold it too long because then you're subject to the waves of the market, right?
And, you know, I post
72 hours? Like, he just, and it's not like that this isn't surprising to me. I mean, I knew that when you're watching these channels of these guys making massive deals for thousands and thousands of dollars, they are turning those cards as quickly as they can. And if you're trying to get into the hobby, if you're trying to grow the hobby, that's not realistic. The reason these guys turn these cards so fast is because they don't want to get caught holding the card when the guy gets hit with some charges or an injury, or they just are using cards as a medium to take big purchases and sales. And if you just take a small margin off of that, if you get a 5% margin off of a $10,000 deal, that's a lot of money, right? That's $500. And if you do that on $50,000 worth of cards in a weekend, that's $2,500. That's a pretty darn good weekend. That's what is happening. But I don't think that's what's good for the hobby. So what I am not gonna do is I am not gonna tell you about my $30,000 deal over the weekend. That's not my focus. That's not sustainable. It's not going to grow the hobby. What's going to grow the hobby are the people who are going through dollar boxes and value boxes and finding the $20 deal, the $11 deal. I mean, I bought a 1951 Bowman Johnny Mize this weekend on eBay for $11. $11 for a 1951 Bowman Hall of Famer, no creases in it, pretty darn good condition. That's the hobby. That's what it's about. So as soon as we continue to act like this is MTV Cribs and everybody's house should look like Shaquille O'Neal's house, at that point, we've lost it. See, that is not reality for almost all of us. If we're gonna go out there and say that everyone should be buying $20,000 Sam Howell cards and Trevor Lawrence cards and Joe Burrow cards, and that's normal, that's not normal. See, there's a reason those guys don't buy and sell football cards during football season. It's because they don't want to get caught holding the card when something happens. So they do it during the off season. Right now, those guys are all buying up baseball cards on the cheap because the biggest transaction period for baseball cards is during the off season when nobody can get hurt. My advice is don't let this get in your head. Don't let this create a false reality for you that in order to be a successful collector, that you need to be buying 52 mantles, that you need to be buying PSA 8, 1955 Sandy Koufax rookies. That's not the reality for a lot of us, and that's not what we need to enjoy it. What most of us are doing are digging through eBay looking for $11 1951 Bowman Johnny Mize cards. That's what most of us are doing. And that's what I'm going to continue to focus on. And that's what a lot of other channels continue to focus on, are the average collector, regular old person, just enjoying collecting cards from the teams and the players that they like. Let me show you some of my favorite pieces of my collection. Check this out.
So these are cards from my childhood that I've had for 35 years. Here are some of my Greg Nettles cards. I got some 83s, some 82s, my Nettles cards from when he's on the Yankees, and then some of the later cards I pulled from packs, like out of the Topps packs in 87 and 88. And then some of the ones I found at card shows growing up. I mean, I have a lot of Greg Nettles cards because, my name's the same. He was captain of the Yankees in my early childhood before he switched teams. I mean, I love those cards. These cards are an important part of my collection. I've got hundreds of different Roger Clemens cards because as a kid, Roger Clemens was my guy, and I've told the story. Yeah, I was a Roger Clemens fan because when I was in 4th grade, I was on the Red Sox, and I was a pitcher. My Little League team was the Red Sox, and I was a pitcher, and Roger Clemens was a stud. And then, lo and behold, at a big card show in the area, we drove into San Francisco, and he was signing autographs, and I met him, and he could not have been nicer to me. Huge Roger Clemens fans. I'm a huge fan of Will Clark. I grew up in a couple hour from the Bay Area. So Will Clark games were on, the Giants and A's were on all the time. And I became a huge Will Clark fan. So I've got a bunch of Will Clark cards. And then my favorite football player as a kid was Roger Craig. So I got a bunch of my Roger Craig cards. These are just some of them. I got a bunch more. But these are just a few of my cards from my collection that are really important to me.
See, when I was a kid, it was about Roger Clemens, my favorite player as a kid. And and Greg Nettles, my favorite player as a kid. When I was 7 years old, I was asked, what's your favorite team and who's your favorite player? I even have the card to prove it. This is one of the cards in my collection. Look at one of these cards in my collection.
So probably the least valuable card in my collection, but I love it. That's me. That is me in 2nd grade. I was on the A's. And if you look on the back, it has all my stats. I was 7 and I was 4 foot tall, right? I got my birth date on there. But then you look, it says, who is your favorite player? I said, Greg Nettles, and my favorite team, the New York Yankees. And that tells a story, man.
See, going through my cards, looking at my Roger Clemens cards, looking at my Roger Craig cards, my favorite football player of all time, looking through my Greg Nettles cards, looking through my Will Clark cards. The local team was the Giants, is the Giants, and I loved Will Clark. I love Will Clark because of the grind. I love Will Clark because he was a gamer. And that, to me, is the hobby. I'm going to plead with everybody. Do not get distracted by the shiny object, by the glittery object over in the distance that a ton of other people at shows are fascinated with. Because to me, most of that is not going to last. What's going to last is the joy of collecting the all-time greats from your all-time favorite teams and digging through value boxes to buy them. The hunt, see, the hunt of the chase, the looking at a value box, having no idea what might fall in your lap. That is the hobby. It's not sitting on your couch, buying into a break on a big time breaking company, hoping you hit an $80,000 card. That is not sustainable. Buy what you like. Do not buy what you think other people are going to want. If you always buy what you like, you'll always be happy with what you buy. Let me know what you think.